Let's talk about poetry. I feel like sometimes it's hard to find really great poetry recommendations, but the one place I always look to is the Forward Prizes for Poetry. And that is because consistently I have loved books that I have discovered from the shortlist of books from the Forward Prizes for Poetry. And this year they have very kindly sent me the shortlist for both Best Collection and Best First Collection. So we have 5 books in each. I'm going to tell you about them and hopefully help you to discover some new poetry that you will love. For me, this is a tried and tested method of finding great new poets that I absolutely fall head over heels in love with, so this is a personal recommendation. And we'll start with Best Collection of Poetry. Some information about the prizes. So the Forward Prizes for Poetry are the most influential awards for new poetry in the UK and Ireland, honouring fresh voices alongside internationally established names. First awarded in 1992, over the last 3 decades, the prizes have celebrated some of the most recognised names in poetry, including Simon Armitage, Tom Gunn, Seamus Heaney, Ted Hughes, Caroline Duffy, Claudia Rankine, Jackie UK, and Caleb Femi. Each year there are 4 prizes: Best Collection, Best First Collection, Best Single Poem Written, and Best Single Poem Performed. And they also released this anthology which features highlights from the prize, and I absolutely love it. So these are the books shortlisted for Best Poetry Collection in 2024. First up, we have God Complex by Rachel Allen in the iconic and very distinctive Faber and Faber poetry jacket. God Complex is a sweeping and corrosive epic, a narrative poem that tells the story of the breakdown of a relationship against a backdrop of progressive environmental degradation. A grieving body moves through states of toxicity, becomes an instrument for measuring the impact of pollutants. An entwining of human and non-human built environment and natural landscape blurs perspective and distorts logic, creating an erratic decline into disorder. Loss is divined everywhere, in human relations, in the ruptures of class and privilege, and the poisoning of the planet. It is through a purgatorial leavening of pain that the narrator comes to terms with the delicate, shifting states of the ecological systems that merge with and surround us to create new forms of being and devotion. The result is Visionary, a book that vibrates with urgency and feeling. Holy smokes, okay. Next we have this collection by Fadi Judah. I think that the title is the ellipses in the square brackets. So I suppose this is drawing attention to space. The square brackets imply something that has been redacted or omitted, something that has been removed. And of course, you'll recognize the colors of this cover as the Palestine flag. Fadi Judah is a Palestinian-American poet, and there is no description of what this collection is about, but there is a poem on the back. So I'm going to read that out, and I'm sure that will give an impression of what this collection covers. Suddenly I, in a blaze, died. Suddenly time quit lingering. Suddenly you can't find my body, can't bury what you can't find. My final poem I wrote years before my hour arrived. Suddenly my voice, thought voiceless, because stateless, gave voice to a noisy world. Suddenly a kite. Suddenly I. Wow. Okay, I think that is going to be so powerful. Next, we have Good Lord by Ella Friers. Good Lord, an email. Okay, interesting. Taking the form of one long email addressed to an estate agent. Oh Lord. I have been, moving house recently. I've been signing a new lease, and emails to estate agents take years off your life. So she is God's strongest soldier for writing a whole collection of poetry that is based on an email. Good Lord is a fictional memoir of habitation, a genre-defying novelistic text that beautifully evokes the people and places of our lives, the spaces of work, those that may or may not be home, sites of trauma and ecstasy. Showing all the control of voice one would expect from a poet of her rare skill, Ella Friers has created a book that is as funny as it is harrowing, and beautifully skewers the contemporary housing crisis while questioning the fundamental desires, drivers, and disappointments that lie at the heart of our obsession with property. Wow. And Sheena Patel, whose book I love, I'm a Fan, which is up there, reviewed this and said, all the hot women I know have Ella Friers on their bedside table. So I guess I officially am trying to be a hot woman. That's my goal. This is Good Lord by Ella Friers. Perfect for hot girl summer, according to Sheena Patel. With My Back to the World is a collection by Victoria Chang. It is described like this: a new collection of poetry inspired by the works of Agnes Martin, exploring topics of feminism, art, depression, and grief, by the author of the prize-winning collection Obit, or O-B-I-T, it's all capitalised. Yesterday, I slung my depression on my back and went to the museum. I only asked for attendance where the Agnes painting was, and the fifth one knew. I walked into the room and saw it right away. From afar, it was a large white square. With My Back to the World engages with the paintings and writings of Agnes Martin, the celebrated abstract artist, in ways that open up new modes of expression, expanding the scope of what art, poetry, and the human mind can do. Filled with surprise and insight, wit and profundity, this book explores the nature of the self, of existence, life and death, grief and depression, time and space. Strikingly original, fluidly strange, Victoria Chang's new collection speaks to how we see and are seen. I wonder where Agnes Martin's art is displayed. Googling. Okay, so it's in the MoMA and the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art. So if you live near either of those places, you could maybe go check it out and then read the collection of poetry. I think I'm gonna head to the MoMA and take this with me and read it literally with my back to, or with my face to, Agnes Martin's artwork. Rounding out our shortlist of 5 books for the best collection in the Forward Prizes for Poetry this year is Strike by Sarah Wimbush, and this picture is going to be explained right now. It's March 1984, and the miners' strike has just started. By exploring both famous and previously unseen photographs through the lens of poetry, Strike captures the turbulence of one of the longest industrial disputes in British history, and the spirit of a marginalised community on the verge of profound change. These miners' houses, I used to live in one of these when I went to university in Durham, and this is exactly what my house looked like on the hill with this exact brickwork. Durham, of course, was a very important mining town. A really interesting array of themes and ideas, and I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into these. And now, this is something I get even more excited about, is new voices, new collections by debut writers, and it's so cool to see the Forward Prizes for Poetry celebrating those. So these are the shortlisted books for the award for the best new writer. Firstly, we have Sana Aron with I Cannot Be Good Until You Say It. What a title, I love that. Nikita Gill describes it as a masterpiece. An honour to read this book. I'm forever changed after reading its beauty. Intricately weaving Quranic verse and hip-hop. Interesting. Asan interrogates the brutalities of whiteness and the politics of suffering. These poems reach for divinity in the queer body, fearlessly complicating what is good and what is God. Sana Aron is a writer, liberation psychologist, and educator. Their work has been awarded the Outspoken Performance Poetry Prize and shortlisted for the Queen Mary Wasafiri New Writing Prize, White Review Poets Prize, and Bridport Prize. Okay, this next one is Inheritance by Jasmine Corey. Inheritance is a profoundly moving exploration of what is passed down by our forebearers, what is left behind when we lose someone, and what we learn from being loved. Jasmine Corey holds our most fiercely guarded myths to the light, refracted through second-generation diaspora, family legend, and life-changing loss. Her poems embrace both the quiet and the storms within. They sing of self-belief, rising to the surface as drowning feels imminent, of desire and how it can cultivate hope. This is a timeless debut, wise, wild, and empowering. A lodestar for survival. Okay, and it's a Poetry Book Society recommendation. Cool. Charlotte Shevchenko Knight with Food for the Dead. With this searingly powerful first collection, Charlotte Shevchenko Knight gives the current war in Ukraine some much needed human focus, while examining its brutal aggression within a wider and more accurate historical context. Central to this book is a timeline of hunger, a lyric sequence which examines the legacy of the Holodomor, which translates to death by hunger in Ukrainian, and this was Stalin's man-made famine of the 1930s. This long poem opens in Kiev in 2021 and then closes in Donetsk in 1929. Okay, so it goes backwards in time. Through the poet's sensitive approach to the historical, moving from that genocide of the early 1930s, then on through the Second World War, the Chernobyl disaster, to modern day invaded Ukraine. Oh, okay. Maybe it does not go back in time. I'm not sure what the timeline is here. We understand that within their bones, Holodomor lives on. Both a howl of anguish and an eloquent counter-song against totalitarianism, this is a book about invasion, war, destruction, and death, but also about the bonds of humanity, family, and a history of oppression, about staying alive while always hungry. Okay, that sounds like an absolute must-read and so pertinent for our current political climate, but also I think what she's pointing out is this has been pertinent for a long time. This never stopped being pertinent. This is something that's been going on for so long. So that is a really important book and one I will be looking forward to reading. American Anthem by Kelly Mitchells. After spending a week sleeping on the floor of a crack house, she comes home dragging a heap of bones. So begins Kelly Mitchell's sometimes shocking debut collection as the author remembers observing her mother. Blending lyric and narrative modes, the dominant strands of American Anthem focus on the tragedies, both personal and national, of the opioid epidemic and its devastating effects of addiction, and of gun violence in America where the author grew up. Drawing on personal experiences, in the book's centerpiece, a tour de force addresses to the writer's younger sister the repeated repercussive "how do I tell her?" allows us to overhear the harrowing details of an assault by a rapist. Other poems respond on a mass shooting in her home neighbourhood. This is an urgent, necessary book, a severe indictment of the mammoth pharmaceutical companies and of the merchants and proponents of arms. Kelly Mitchells has heeded Robert Lowell's injunction to say what happened, and her report is fashioned in a series of remarkable poems. American Anthem proclaims a new voice in Irish poetry. It is an outstanding, bold, and brave first collection. And finally, we have Marjorie Lotfi with The Wrong Person to Ask. Winner of the James Berry Poetry Prize, Marjorie Lotfi's award-winning debut collection is a book of two halves, each a meditation on the idea of home, both the places we start and end up in our lives. Spanning a childhood in Iran dislocated by revolution, through years as a young woman in America, to her current home in Scotland, these poems ask what it means to come from somewhere else, what we carry with us when we leave, and how we land in a new place and finally come to rest. Do you understand now why I take the recommendations of this prize as a bit of a holy grail, and also something that informs my reading list of poetry for the foreseeable? These all sound incredible. Thank you so much to the Forward Prizes for Poetry for kindly sending these to me. I'm really looking forward to reading these and reviewing them. You can find my reviews on this channel, on my main channel, on my Goodreads, on my Storygraph, on my Threads, on my Instagram, etc, etc. If there is a place I can share book reviews, I will be sharing them. So for now, all that's left to say is thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know which of these poetry collections sounds great to you, and I will catch you next time. Bye bye!